My name is Jennifer Walsh, and for 17 years, I believed I had mastered the art of motherhood. I thought I knew everything about my children. Every scraped knee, every bad dream, every secret crush whispered into my shoulder during late-night talks. I was wrong. So devastatingly, humiliatingly wrong. It started on a Tuesday morning in late September. The kind of morning where the air smells like dying leaves and new beginnings, where coffee tastes better than it should, and where life feels predictable in the most comforting way possible. I was standing at the kitchen counter, packing lunches for my twin 16-year-old daughters, Emma and Olivia, when I heard it. That sound. The gurgling, angry protest of pipes that had finally given up on life. Jennifer. Oh, come on. Not today. Please. Not today. The basement toilet had been acting strange for weeks. Small rebellions at first. A slow drain here. A concerning bubble there. But that morning, it had declared all-out war. Water was seeping across the basement floor when I rushed down the stairs, my heart pounding with the particular panic that only homeowners understand. The panic that comes with dollar signs and ruined belongings, and the realization that you're about to spend money you don't have on something you can't even see. My ex-husband Daniel would have known what to do. He always did. But Daniel had been gone for 3 years now, living in Portland with his new wife and their baby boy. A baby boy who got all the attention and patience that our daughters never seemed to receive from him anymore. The divorce had been civil, as these things go, but it had left me as the sole guardian of a crumbling house and 2 teenage girls who seemed to drift further from me with each passing day. I called the first plumber I found online. Murphy's Plumbing and Heating. 5-star reviews. Available same day. Perfect. Too perfect, maybe. But I was desperate. Jennifer. Hi, yes, I have a basement toilet that's flooding. Can you send someone today? Please? The dispatcher assured me someone would arrive within 2 hours. I went upstairs to find Emma and Olivia already gone. They'd left for school without saying goodbye again. Their bedroom doors stood open, revealing the chaos of teenage existence. Clothes everywhere, makeup scattered across dressers, posters of bands I'd never heard of taped to walls. I stood in the hallway between their rooms, feeling like a stranger in my own home. When had I lost them? Was it gradual? Like the wearing away of stone by water? Or was there a moment, a specific point in time where they decided I wasn't worth letting in anymore? I couldn't pinpoint it, and that ignorance felt like failure. The plumber arrived at 10:33. I remember the exact time because I'd been watching the clock, worried about the water damage, worried about the cost, worried about everything the way I always did. His name was Marcus, a broad-shouldered man in his 50s with kind eyes and hands that looked like they'd fixed 1,000 broken things. Marcus. Mrs. Walsh? I'm here about the toilet situation. Jennifer. It's Ms. Walsh now, but yes. Thank you for coming so quickly. It's downstairs. I led him to the basement, my sneakers squelching in the water that had spread across the concrete floor. Marcus surveyed the scene with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen worse. Much worse, apparently, because he didn't seem alarmed. Marcus. Seen this before? Main drain is probably blocked. Shouldn't take too long to fix. Mind if I take a look around down here? Sometimes the problem starts somewhere else. Jennifer. Of course. Whatever you need to do. I left him to work and went upstairs, grateful to have one problem potentially solved. I tried to focus on my laptop, on the freelance editing work that paid the bills but never quite enough of them. But my mind kept wandering to Emma and Olivia, to the distance between us that felt like an ocean now when it used to be nothing at all. They'd been such open children once. Emma with her endless questions about everything, her curiosity making every trip to the grocery store an adventure. Olivia with her fierce hugs and her insistence on telling me every detail of her day, even the boring parts, especially the boring parts. But high school had changed them. Or maybe I had failed to change with them. They had secrets now. Phones that buzzed with messages they hid from me. Conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. Excuses about studying at friends' houses that felt hollow, but that I accepted because I didn't know how to challenge them without pushing them further away. I heard Marcus moving around downstairs, the clank of tools, the rush of water through pipes. Then silence. A long silence that made me set down my coffee cup and listen more carefully. Marcus. Ms. Walsh? Could you come down here for a minute? His voice had changed. There was something in it. Not alarm exactly, but a careful neutrality that made my stomach clench. I hurried down the basement stairs, my mind racing through possibilities. Had he found mold? Structural damage? A rat's nest? Marcus was standing in the far corner of the basement, near the old storage area that I never paid attention to. The section behind the furnace where we kept boxes of Christmas decorations and forgotten childhood toys. He was looking at something behind the shelving unit, his flashlight illuminating a space I hadn't really examined in years. Marcus. I had to move some of these boxes to check the pipes back here, and I found something. I think you need to see this. He stepped aside, and I moved closer, my heart hammering. Behind the shelving unit, someone had created a space, a deliberate, hidden space. There were blankets hung like curtains, a small battery-powered lantern, and inside this makeshift room, illuminated by Marcus's flashlight, was a collection of items that made my breath catch in my throat. Art supplies, dozens of them. Professional-grade paints, brushes, canvases, sketchbooks filled with drawings that were so accomplished, so mature, that I couldn't immediately process what I was seeing. There were finished paintings, too. Portraits of people I didn't recognize. Landscapes that captured light in ways I didn't know paint could. Abstract pieces that seemed to pulse with emotion. And in the corner, carefully arranged, were college brochures. Rhode Island School of Design, Pratt Institute, School of the Art Institute of Chicago. All opened, all marked with sticky notes covered in neat handwriting that I recognized as Emma's. Marcus. I didn't go through anything, I promise. But I thought you should know this was here. Looks like someone's been spending a lot of time down here. I couldn't speak. I just stood there, staring at this secret world my daughter had built. This beautiful, hidden thing that spoke of passion and dedication, and a whole inner life I knew nothing about. Jennifer. I had no idea. I didn't know she was interested in art. Not like this. Marcus. Kids keep secrets sometimes, usually for reasons that make sense to them, even if they don't make sense to us. He left me there with a gentle pat on my shoulder and went back to fixing the toilet. I heard him working, heard the water shut off, heard the sound of normalcy returning, but I couldn't move. I sank down onto an old camping chair that had been set up in this hidden studio, and I looked at my daughter's work. Really looked at it. There was one portrait that stopped me cold. It was me. Emma had painted me, but not the me I saw in the mirror every morning. This version of me looked tired, yes, but also strong. There were lines around my eyes, but they looked like evidence of laughter, not just age. My hands were prominent in the painting, captured mid-gesture, and they looked capable. Artist hands, Emma had written in tiny letters at the bottom. I picked up one of the sketchbooks and started flipping through it, page after page of observations. Our house, our neighborhood, studies of hands and faces, and interspersed throughout were words. Journal entries, I realized. I know I shouldn't read them, but I did. I read every single one. Emma's writing. Mom works so hard. She doesn't think I notice, but I do. I see her at the kitchen table at midnight, editing those boring medical journals, drinking cold coffee and rubbing her eyes. I see her smile when she's tired. I hear her on the phone with Dad, being polite when he cancels visits again. She never complains where we can hear. She thinks she's protecting us, but I see everything. I want to capture it. I want to paint the truth of her, the beauty of someone who holds everything together even when they're falling apart. I sat there in my daughter's secret studio and cried. Not pretty tears. Ugly, gasping sobs that felt like they were being pulled from somewhere deep inside me. Because I realized something devastating. I'd been so worried about losing my daughters that I'd stopped seeing them. I'd been so focused on the distance between us that I'd failed to notice what they were building in that distance. Their own identities, their own dreams, their own understanding of the world. I spent almost an hour in that basement corner, going through every sketchbook, examining every painting. There were dozens of self-portraits where Emma had experimented with different styles, different techniques, different ways of seeing herself. In some, she looked confident and bold. In others, uncertain and fragile. I realized these weren't just art exercises. They were her trying to figure out who she was, and she'd done it alone, in secret, because she didn't think I would understand. There were paintings of Olivia, too, beautiful studies of her twin sister, Olivia laughing, Olivia reading, Olivia lost in thought. The love between them was visible in every brushstroke. Emma had captured something essential about her sister, something I could see but had never articulated. The fierce intelligence behind Olivia's eyes, the way she carried herself like she was ready to take on the world. And there were landscapes, views from our backyard at different times of day, the morning light filtering through the oak tree, sunset painting the sky orange and pink, night bringing stars and shadows. Our ordinary suburban backyard transformed into something worth documenting, worth remembering. Emma had been paying attention to our life in ways I hadn't realized, finding beauty in the mundane, making art from the everyday. But what broke me most were the paintings that hadn't been finished, abandoned attempts and experiments. Studies where she'd clearly struggled with technique or composition. These failures, carefully stacked in a corner, told me more than the successes. They showed dedication, persistence, the willingness to fail and try again. All the qualities I'd tried to teach her through words, she'd been teaching herself through action. Marcus found me there eventually, probably wondering if I was okay. I wasn't, but I would be. Marcus. Toilets fixed. Main drain was blocked, just like I thought. Should be good now. Are you all right, Ms. Walsh? Jennifer. I don't know, but thank you for fixing the toilet and for showing me this. How much do I owe you? He quoted me a price that was less than I'd expected. Maybe he was cutting me a break. Maybe he sensed this day had already cost me enough emotionally. We went upstairs together, and I wrote him a check with shaking hands. Marcus. I have 3 daughters myself, all grown now. If there's one thing I learned, it's that they're always more than we think they are. Smarter, stronger, more capable. The trick is getting out of their way long enough to let them show us. Jennifer, how do you do that? Get out of their way without abandoning them? Marcus, you show up when they need you. You listen when they talk. And you trust that you raised them well enough to figure things out, even when they don't do it the way you would. Especially when they don't do it the way you would. He left, and I stood at the kitchen window watching his truck disappear down the street. Then I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by the detritus of my morning. Cold coffee, abandoned work, a house that suddenly felt full of secrets. I tried to return to my editing work, but the words on the screen meant nothing. I kept thinking about Emma's journal entries, about how clearly she saw me, about how she'd noticed things I thought I'd hidden, my late nights, my strained conversations with Daniel, my attempts to shield them from adult worries. I'd thought I was being strong, but Emma had seen through it. She'd recognized the difference between strength and pretense, and instead of resenting me for the act, she'd tried to document the truth beneath it, to honor it through her art. I pulled out my phone, thought about texting Emma, asking her to come home early, demanding an explanation. But what would I say? I found your secret studio? I read your private journal? I invaded your privacy, and now I need you to make me feel better about what I discovered? No, I needed to wait, to think, to figure out how to approach this in a way that wouldn't make her feel violated or exposed. The studio was her secret for a reason. Multiple reasons, probably. And I needed to respect that, even as I processed the hurt of being shut out. I thought back over the past year, looking for signs I'd missed, and they were everywhere. Paint under Emma's fingernails that I'd assumed was from school art class. The hours she spent supposedly at her friend Madison's house. The way she'd become so interested in my work schedule, asking when I'd be home, when I'd be busy. She'd been mapping my movements, finding safe times to disappear into her basement studio. And Olivia must have known. Twins that close didn't keep secrets from each other. Which meant Olivia had been lying to me too. Both of them had. Not maliciously, but deliberately. They'd built a wall of small deceptions between us, and I'd been too busy or too blind to notice the construction. The afternoon dragged by. I tried to work. I tried to distract myself with household chores. I cleaned the kitchen with aggressive efficiency. I folded laundry. I answered emails. But my mind kept returning to that basement corner, to Emma's hidden world, to the question of why she felt she needed to hide. Around 2 p.m, my phone rang. It was my sister Catherine. She lived in Boston and we talked maybe once a month, usually when one of us had news or needed advice. I almost didn't answer, but talking to someone, anyone, felt better than sitting alone with my spiraling thoughts. Catherine. Hey Jen. Just calling to check in. How are things? Jennifer. They're complicated. Really, really complicated. Catherine. What happened? And I told her. Everything. About the toilet, the plumber, the discovery. About Emma's paintings and journal entries. About feeling like I'd failed as a mother without even realizing I was failing. Catherine listened without interrupting, which was unusual for her. She was usually quick with advice, often unwanted, but this time, she just listened. Catherine. Jen. Can I tell you something you probably don't want to hear? Jennifer. At this point, I don't think anything could make me feel worse. Catherine. This isn't about you failing. This is about Emma succeeding. She found something she's passionate about. She pursued it with discipline and dedication. She created a space for herself to grow and explore. That's not a failure of your parenting. That's evidence of your parenting working. She learned independence and self-direction from somewhere, probably from watching you. Jennifer. She learned to hide things from me. That's what she learned. Catherine. Or she learned that she needed private space to figure things out. There's a difference, Jen. Remember when we were teenagers? Remember your poetry phase? You wrote hundreds of poems and kept them in that locked box under your bed. Mom tried to read them once and you lost your mind. You needed that privacy, that secret creative space. It didn't mean you didn't love Mom. It meant you needed something that was just yours. The memory hit me with unexpected force. I'd completely forgotten about that locked box, about the poems I'd poured myself into during high school, about how violated I'd felt when I caught Mom trying to pick the lock with a bobby pin. I'd screamed at her, called her nosy and controlling, refused to speak to her for days. And here I was, decades later, doing the same thing to my daughter, reading her private journals, judging her for needing space. The hypocrisy was stunning. Catherine, you there? Jennifer, yeah, I'm here. You're right. Of course you're right. I'm being ridiculous. Catherine, you're not being ridiculous. You're being scared. There's a difference. But Jen, Emma is 16. She's becoming her own person. That's supposed to happen. It's supposed to hurt a little. The fact that it does hurt means you love her. But you can't let that hurt turn into control or resentment. You have to let her have her secrets and her private spaces. And you have to trust that when she's ready, she'll share them with you. Jennifer, what if she's never ready? What if this is who we are now? Polite strangers living in the same house? Catherine, then you show her it's safe to be more than that. You create opportunities for connection without demanding them. You model the openness you want from her. But you can't force it, Jen. The harder you push, the further she'll run. We talked for another 20 minutes. Catherine told me about her own kids, about her teenage son who'd recently come out as transgender, and how that journey had taught her about letting go of expectations, about creating space for people to become themselves, even when it wasn't what you'd imagined. By the time we hung up, I felt marginally better. Still hurt, still confused, but less panicked. Less like the world was ending. More like maybe this was just another stage of motherhood. Painful, awkward, necessary. The girls came home at 3:15. I heard the front door open, heard their voices in the hallway, heard them head up to their rooms without checking to see if I was home. The usual routine. But this time, I didn't let it happen. Jennifer. Emma, Olivia, can you both come to the kitchen, please? There was a pause. Then footsteps on the stairs. They appeared in the doorway looking wary, their backpacks still on their shoulders, their expressions guarded. They exchanged one of those twin looks, the kind that conveyed an entire conversation without words. Olivia. What's wrong? Are we in trouble? Jennifer. No, nobody's in trouble. I just need to talk to you both about something. Sit down, please. They exchanged another look, this one tinged with worry. Then they sat, dropping their backpacks by their chairs with identical thuds. Emma's hands were folded tightly in her lap. Olivia reached over and grabbed her sister's hand. That small gesture told me everything. They knew, or at least they suspected. I didn't know where to start. My carefully prepared speech had evaporated the moment they walked into the room, so I started with the truth. Jennifer, the basement toilet broke this morning. I had to call a plumber. He found something behind the furnace. Emma, he found your studio. The color drained from Emma's face so quickly I thought she might faint. Her hand tightened around Olivia's until both their knuckles were white. Olivia's eyes widened, but she didn't look surprised. Guilty, maybe. Protective of her sister. Definitely. But not surprised. Emma, you weren't supposed to find that. Nobody was supposed to find that. Her voice was barely a whisper. Tears were already streaming down her face, and seeing them broke something in me. My brave, creative daughter, reduced to fear because I'd discovered her secret, because she thought I'd be angry or disappointed or dismissive. Jennifer, Emma, honey, I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm just trying to understand why you felt like you had to hide this from me. The paintings are beautiful. They're incredible. Why didn't you tell me you were interested in art? Emma, because you would have said it was impractical. Because you would have told me I needed to focus on something that could actually become a career. Because Dad always says artists don't make money and you never disagree with him about stuff like that. Because I didn't want you to look at me the way you're looking at me right now, like you don't even know who I am. Every word landed like a physical blow, because she was right, about all of it. I would have said those things. I had said those things. Not to her specifically, but in her hearing. Comments about struggling artists, warnings about practical careers, cautionary tales about people who followed their passion and ended up broke and bitter. All the advice I thought was protective, but that she'd heard as dismissive, as a rejection of who she was becoming. Jennifer, you're right. I probably would have said those things. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Emma. I was trying to protect you from disappointment, but I ended up protecting you from your own dreams instead. That's not what a good mother does. Emma, you're a good mother. You work so hard for us. You've done everything alone since Dad left. I didn't want to add to your stress. I didn't want to be another thing you had to worry about or fix or manage. The studio was mine. It was the one place where I could just be myself without feeling like I was a problem that needed solving. My throat tightened. I'd been so focused on being strong for them, on providing and protecting, that I'd made them feel like they were burdens. Like their needs and dreams and struggles were weights I was barely managing to carry. I'd thought I was being a good mother by shouldering everything alone. Instead, I'd been teaching them to hide their true selves from me. Olivia. She didn't tell me either, not at first. I found the studio 6 months ago. I was looking for the Christmas decorations because I wanted to see if we still had those weird ornaments Grandma made, and I found Emma's space. She made me promise not to tell you. Olivia's voice was defensive, protective of her twin in the way that only twins can be. But there was something else there too. Guilt, maybe. Divided loyalty. The burden of keeping her sister's secret while lying to me, by omission. Jennifer, can I ask why? Both of you. Why so much secrecy? I know I haven't been perfect, but I thought we could at least talk to each other. Emma wiped her face with the back of her hand, leaving a smear of mascara across her cheek. She looked so young in that moment. Still my baby, despite being nearly grown. Still needing me, even as she was learning to need me differently. Emma, because you're always so stressed, Mom. You're always working, always worried about money, always dealing with Dad's crap when he cancels plans or forgets to send the support check on time. I didn't want to add to it. I didn't want to tell you I wanted to go to expensive art schools that probably wouldn't lead to a real career. I didn't want to be another thing you had to fix or manage or worry about. The studio was mine. It was the one place where I could just be myself without feeling like I was failing you by not being practical enough. Olivia. And it's not just that. It's like you put up this wall after the divorce. Like you decided you had to be strong enough for all of us, so you stopped letting us see when you were struggling. You stopped being real with us, so we stopped being real with you. It just kind of happened, you know? Bit by bit until we were all just pretending to be okay, instead of actually being okay. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with truth that hurt to hear but needed to be said. I thought about the past 3 years, about how I'd carefully hidden my tears after difficult phone calls with Daniel, how I'd smiled through stress and pretended everything was fine even when it wasn't, how I'd tried to shield them from the adult realities of divorce and financial struggle and single parenthood. I'd thought I was being strong, but I'd actually been modeling dishonesty, teaching them that real feelings were something to hide, that vulnerability was weakness, that we all had to present perfect facades to each other instead of being authentically imperfect together. Jennifer, you're absolutely right. Both of you. I put up walls because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I thought being a good mother meant never letting you see me struggle or doubt or fail. But all I did was teach you that you couldn't be real with me either, that you had to hide the parts of yourselves that weren't easy or practical or immediately understandable. And I'm so sorry for that. I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't trust me with who you really are. Emma, I do trust you, Mom. That's not it. It's just that the art felt so private, so mine. I needed something that was just mine. You know? Something that Dad couldn't comment on or you couldn't worry about. Something that existed outside of all the family stuff and the divorce stuff and the money stuff. Does that make sense? Jennifer, it makes perfect sense. I'm just sad that you felt like you couldn't have that and also share it with me. Like it had to be one or the other. Olivia, there's something else. Something I need to tell you if we're doing this. If we're really being honest with each other. She glanced at Emma, who squeezed her hand and nodded. Permission granted, apparently. Some twin communication I wasn't privy to. Some silent support system they'd built without me. Olivia, I'm gay, Mom. I've known for 2 years. I've been dating a girl named Michelle for 5 months. And I didn't tell you because I was scared. Not of you rejecting me, exactly. I think you'd be okay with it. But I was scared of you making it into this big thing. Of you being too accepting, too supportive, too everything. Of you turning it into another thing to manage or process or work through together. I just wanted it to be normal. My normal. Not something we had to have intense conversations about or analyze or make into a teaching moment. My younger daughter. My fierce, bright, beautiful daughter who I'd carried for 9 months alongside her sister, who I'd nursed and rocked and watched grow into this incredible person. And she'd been carrying this truth alone for 2 years because I'd somehow made her feel like my love came with conditions or complications. Jennifer, Olivia, Emma, both of you, come here, please. I stood up and opened my arms, and after a moment's hesitation, they came to me, both of them. And we stood in the kitchen, the three of us wrapped around each other, crying in a way we hadn't cried since the divorce. Since before the divorce, maybe. Crying because secrets hurt, because distance hurts, because pretending to be okay when you're not hurts, but also crying because truth feels good, because being seen feels good, because coming home to yourself and to each other feels like the best kind of relief. Jennifer, I love you both exactly as you are. Emma with your art and your beautiful way of seeing the world. Olivia with your honesty and your courage and your wonderful girlfriend who I can't wait to meet. And I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't trust me with the real you. That's my failure, not yours. But we can fix it. If you'll let me, we can fix it. We can learn how to be real with each other instead of just nice to each other. We stood there for a long time, long enough that the sun started to set, casting orange light through the kitchen windows. Long enough that my back started to hurt and my arms got tired, but I didn't want to let go. Long enough that I started to believe maybe we really could fix this. That maybe this horrible, wonderful day was actually a gift. A chance to start over, to build something better than what we'd had. Emma, can I show you the rest? All of it? There's more in the studio that you didn't see. Things I've been working on. Things I want to try. Schools I'm thinking about applying to. I want to show you everything, if that's okay. Jennifer, I would love nothing more. Show me your world, baby. Let me into it. I promise I'll treat it with the respect it deserves. Olivia, and can Michelle come over for dinner sometime? Soon? I want you to meet her. I want to stop hiding that part of my life from you. Jennifer, she can come over tomorrow if she wants. Tonight even. I want to meet her. I want to know all the people who are important to you. Both of you. I want to stop being on the outside looking in. Emma, we weren't trying to shut you out, Mom. We were just trying to figure ourselves out. But maybe we can do both. Figure ourselves out and still let you in. If you promise not to try to fix everything, or worry about everything, or make everything into a crisis that needs managing. Jennifer, I promise to try. I'm going to mess up sometimes. I'm going to worry because that's what I do. But I promise to try to let you both have your space and your privacy and your own journeys. And I promise to be honest with you too. About when I'm struggling or scared or don't know what I'm doing, because apparently I've been pretending to have it all together when that was never true. Olivia, we know you don't have it all together, Mom. We've always known. We just pretended not to know because you seemed like you needed us to pretend. The honesty was brutal and beautiful at the same time. This was what I'd been missing. This rawness. This willingness to say the hard things. This trust that we could handle the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. The three of us went down to the basement together. This time, when Emma pulled back the curtain to her hidden studio, it felt different. Like we were entering a sacred space that I'd been given permission to visit. She showed me everything. Dozens of paintings and drawings I hadn't seen during my first exploration. Her plans for her portfolio. The schools she wanted to apply to. Her fears about whether she was good enough. Her dreams about what she wanted to create. She showed me technique studies where she'd practiced painting hands over and over until she got them right. Experiments with different color palettes. Attempts at styles she'd seen in museums and tried to recreate. There was one painting that stopped me. It showed a fractured landscape, beautiful but broken, with cracks running through otherwise pristine scenery. Emma, I painted this after we had that huge fight last spring. Remember? When Dad canceled his visit for the 3rd time and you were so angry but trying to hide it and I just lost it? Jennifer, I remember. It was an awful night. You said we were both selfish. You were right. Emma, this is what I want to do with art, Mom. Take the real stuff, the hard stuff, and transform it into something that matters, something that makes people feel less alone. And I listened, really listened, not thinking about objections or concerns or practical considerations, just absorbing the reality of my daughter's passion, her talent, her vision for her life. Olivia, I've been helping her. With the applications, I mean. I'm good at writing, and Emma's not. We've been working on her artist statements together, trying to put into words what she creates with images. Jennifer, What about you, Liv? What do you want to do? What are your dreams? We've talked about Emma's art, but what makes you come alive? Olivia looked surprised by the question, like she hadn't expected me to ask, like she'd gotten used to being the supporting character in Emma's story. Olivia, I want to be a journalist. I want to write stories that matter, that tell the truth about people's lives. Real people, not celebrities or politicians. Just regular people doing extraordinary things in quiet ways. Like you, Mom. You're extraordinary in these quiet ways nobody notices. But I notice. And I want to write about people like you. She said it defiantly, like she expected me to argue. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because I was too busy feeling proud. Too busy feeling amazed at these two humans I'd helped create who had become so much more than I'd ever imagined. Jennifer, then that's what you should do. Both of you should do exactly what you want to do. And I'll help. However I can help, I will. We'll figure out the practical stuff together. The applications, the financial aid, the logistics, but the dreams themselves are non-negotiable. They're yours and they're valid and they're worth pursuing. The next few weeks were a revelation. We started having dinner together every night. Not fancy dinners, just whatever I could throw together after work. Pasta with jarred sauce, grilled cheese and tomato soup, takeout pizza when nobody had energy to cook. But we sat together and we talked. Really talked. About their days, their friends, their worries. About my work, my own struggles with being single again, my fears about money and aging and whether I was doing enough. Emma started showing me her work as she created it. She'd come upstairs from the basement with paint-stained hands and show me what she'd been working on. Sometimes she wanted feedback. Sometimes she just wanted to share. I learned the difference. Learned to recognize when she wanted input and when she just wanted acknowledgement. Emma, what do you think of this color combination? Does it work or is it too muddy? Jennifer, I think it's beautiful. The way the blue and orange play off each other, it reminds me of sunset over water. Emma, that's exactly what I was going for. You see it. You really see it. Olivia started sharing her writing with me. Articles about her classmates, profiles of teachers, observations about teenage life that were insightful and funny and sometimes heartbreaking. She had a gift for finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. Olivia, I wrote this about Mr. Patterson, the janitor. Did you know he's been working at the school for 37 years? Did you know he knows the name of every single student? Did you know he keeps a drawer full of snacks for kids who don't always have lunch money? Jennifer, I didn't know any of that. But you found it out. You saw him when other people just walk right past. That's a real gift, Liv. Olivia, that's what I want to do. See people. Really see them. The way Emma saw you in that painting. The way you're learning to see us now. I learned that Emma had a girlfriend. A quiet, intense girl named Rachel who was also an artist. They'd been dating for 5 months and Emma had been terrified to tell me. Rachel came over for dinner on a Thursday night, nervous and polite and clearly devoted to my daughter. She brought a small painting as a gift, an abstract piece in blues and greens. Rachel, Emma talks about you all the time, about how hard you work, about how much you do for them. I wanted to give you something to say thank you for raising someone so amazing. Jennifer, you didn't have to do that, but thank you. It's beautiful. And thank you for being important to my daughter, for seeing her the way she deserves to be seen. We ate dinner together, the 4 of us. Rachel gradually relaxed as she realized I wasn't going to interrogate her or make things weird. She and Emma talked about an upcoming art show at school, about techniques they were learning, about galleries they wanted to visit. I watched them together and saw my daughter happy, genuinely, radiantly happy. After Rachel left, Emma found me in the kitchen doing dishes. Emma, thank you for being cool about Rachel, about everything. I know this is all probably weird for you. Jennifer, it's not weird. It's new. There's a difference. You're growing up and having relationships and making your own choices. That's what's supposed to happen. I just wish I'd made it easier for you to share this stuff with me all along. Emma, we're sharing now. That's what matters. I learned that Olivia had already come out to most of her friends and that it had been a non-event for them, which filled me with hope about her generation. She'd been most worried about telling me, which filled me with shame about what I'd somehow communicated to her. Michelle came over the following week. She was bright and funny and clearly crazy about my daughter. She had strong opinions about everything from politics to pizza toppings. Olivia lit up around her in a way I'd never quite seen before. Confident, herself, unguarded. Michelle, Ms. Walsh, can I ask you something kind of personal? Jennifer, it's Ms. Walsh, but sure, and you can just call me Jennifer. Michelle, Olivia says you've been really supportive about us, about her being gay. My parents kind of lost it when I came out. They're getting better now, but it was rough for a while. How did you know how to react the right way? Jennifer. I didn't know. I'm still learning. But I think the key is remembering that your kids' happiness matters more than your expectations, that who they are matters more than who you thought they'd be. Olivia is exactly who she's supposed to be. I'm just grateful she trusts me enough to let me see it. Olivia teared up at that. She reached over and squeezed my hand across the dinner table, and I squeezed back. These small moments of connection were becoming our new normal, but we were fixing it. Slowly. Awkwardly sometimes, with setbacks and misunderstandings. But we were trying, and that was something. We had a fight one night about curfew. Emma wanted to stay out later than I was comfortable with. I said no. She argued. I held firm. She stormed off to her room. The old me would have let that fester, would have stewed in my room feeling hurt and disrespected. But the new me knocked on her door an hour later. Jennifer, can we talk about why I said no? Not so I can change my mind, but so you understand it's not about not trusting you. And we talked, really talked, about my fears as a single mother, about wanting to keep her safe without smothering her, about the balance between freedom and responsibility. She didn't like my decision, but she understood it, and that understanding felt more important than agreement. I also made some changes in my own life. I'd been so focused on being responsible, on keeping everything together, that I'd forgotten I was also a person with needs and dreams. I started taking a writing class on Tuesday nights. Just for fun. Just for me. Creative writing, something I'd always wanted to try, but had convinced myself was impractical. The class was held at the local community college and was full of people like me. People who'd spent years being practical and were finally giving themselves permission to create. I was terrified the first night, convinced I'd be the worst writer there. But something unexpected happened. I was good at it. Not brilliant, not publishable, but good. I had stories to tell. About divorce and motherhood and the strange dance of letting go while still holding on. My instructor, Patricia, encouraged me to keep writing, to push harder. Patricia, you have a voice, Jennifer. It's honest and raw and real. Don't waste it trying to sound like someone else. Write what scares you. That's where the good stuff lives. The girls insisted I go to class every Tuesday. They would make dinner on those nights, and I'd come home to find them in the kitchen, cooking together, talking and laughing in a way that made my heart ache with happiness. Sometimes Rachel or Michelle would be there too. Sometimes it was just the two of them. I'd tell them about class, about the stories I was working on, and they'd tell me about their days, their projects, their plans. We became, slowly, a unit again. Not the unit we'd been before, but something better, more honest, more real. One evening in November, about 6 weeks after the plumber had discovered Emma's studio, we were all sitting in the living room. Emma was sketching, Olivia was typing on her laptop, and I was reading a short story for my writing class, just existing together in comfortable silence. Then Emma looked up. Emma, Mom? Can I ask you something kind of heavy? Jennifer, of course, honey, anything. Emma, why did you and Dad really split up? You always say it was because you grew apart, but I don't think that's the whole truth. And if we're doing this honesty thing for real, I need to know the truth. I set down my book. Olivia closed her laptop. They both looked at me with identical expressions of careful curiosity. These were hard questions, the kind I'd been avoiding for 3 years because I thought I was protecting them. But protection had become just another form of dishonesty. Jennifer, you're right. That's not the whole truth. We grew apart, yes, but the real reason was that your father wanted me to be someone I wasn't. He wanted me to be content with less. Less ambition, less independence, less voice. He wanted a wife who would focus entirely on home and family and not rock the boat. And for a long time, I tried to be that person because I thought that's what good wives did. But it made me miserable. And that misery started to poison everything. I didn't leave because I stopped loving him. I left because I needed to remember how to love myself. And I needed to show you both that it's okay to choose yourself, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Olivia, do you regret it? The divorce, I mean? Because sometimes it seems like you do. Jennifer, no. I regret how long it took me to find the courage to leave. I regret the years I spent being smaller than I needed to be. I regret that you both had to watch me shrink myself. But I don't regret choosing us. Choosing a life where we could all breathe and grow and become ourselves. Even if it's harder financially. Even if it means I work too much and worry about money. I'd rather struggle and be authentic than be comfortable and trapped. Emma, It makes perfect sense. That's how I feel about art. I know it's not practical. I know I'll probably struggle. But the thought of doing anything else feels like dying slowly. Jennifer, then you already understand what took me 20 years of marriage to figure out. Hold on to that, Emma. Don't let anyone convince you to be smaller than you are. Not even me, especially not me. Olivia, is that why you started the writing class? Because you're choosing yourself now too? Jennifer, exactly. I spent so long being just a mom or just an ex-wife that I forgot I was also just Jennifer. A person with dreams and interests and a voice that matters. The writing class is me remembering that. We talked late into the night that evening. About identity and authenticity. About the divorce and its aftermath. About Daniel and his new life. About the ways families break and heal and rebuild themselves. Emma, I'm glad we're talking about this stuff, about the real stuff. It's scary sometimes, but it's also good. It feels like we're actually a family now instead of just people who live together. Olivia, we were always a family, Em. But yeah, this version is better, more honest, more us. In December, we went to Chicago together. The three of us took a weekend trip to visit the School of the Art Institute, one of Emma's top choices. We walked through galleries, sat in on a class, talked to students and professors. Emma's face was luminous the entire time. She belonged there. I could see it. She could see it. Even Olivia, who had her own dreams, could see it. Emma, this is where I want to be, Mom. This is it. This is my place. Jennifer, then we'll make it happen. I don't know how yet, but we will. Financial aid, scholarships, me getting a second job if I have to. We'll figure it out together. On the last night of the trip, we had dinner at a small Italian restaurant near our hotel. We'd spent the day exploring the city, imagining what Emma's life might look like there. We were tired and happy, and the girls were more relaxed with me than they'd been in years. Olivia, can I say something sappy? Jennifer, always. Olivia, I'm glad the toilet broke. I know that sounds weird, but I am. I'm glad we got caught. I'm glad we had to have all these hard conversations. I was so tired of pretending, of feeling like I had to protect you from us. Emma, me too. I was so scared when you found the studio. I thought you'd be angry or disappointed. But instead, everything got better. We got better. Jennifer, I'm glad too. And I'm sorry it took something breaking for me to see how broken we'd become. But we're fixing it. All of us. Together. We ordered dessert and ate too much tiramisu and talked about the future in a way that felt hopeful instead of scary. On the train ride home, the girls fell asleep on each other's shoulders, and I watched them. These two people I'd made who'd somehow become more amazing than I'd ever dared to imagine. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. He'd been better about staying in touch lately, though it was still sporadic. The text was short. Typical of him. Daniel's text. How's the Chicago trip? Sorry I couldn't make it. Work's crazy. Say hi to the girls for me. I looked at my sleeping daughters, at their peaceful faces, at the way they'd subconsciously reached for each other even in sleep, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years when I thought about my ex-husband. Not anger or resentment or even disappointment, just a quiet acceptance of who he was and who he wasn't, and gratitude that whatever mistakes we'd made together, we'd somehow created these two perfect humans. I didn't respond to his text. I just put my phone away and looked out the window at the darkness rushing past, at the lights of small towns flickering in the distance. The next few months were a whirlwind. Emma worked on her portfolio with an intensity I'd never seen in her before. She painted and drew and revised and painted some more. She moved her studio out of the basement and into the dining room we never used. The whole house started to smell like paint and turpentine, and I loved it. Olivia threw herself into the school newspaper, became the editor, started winning awards for her writing. She did a profile of Emma that was so beautiful, so intimate and honest, that I cried when I read it. It was about keeping secrets and finding the courage to be seen, about sisterhood and art and the fear of disappointing the people you love most. I kept writing too. My little Tuesday night class became a refuge, a place where I could be Jennifer the writer instead of Jennifer the mom, or Jennifer the divorcee, or Jennifer the woman who was always worried about money. I wrote about my marriage, about motherhood, about the strange grief of watching your children grow up and away from you, about the joy of watching them come back as their full selves. In March, Emma got her acceptance letters. She got into every school she applied to, every single one, including her dream school, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, with a partial scholarship. Not enough to cover everything, but enough that we could make it work. Just barely. if we were careful, if we all made sacrifices. We celebrated in the kitchen, dancing around like idiots, crying and laughing at the same time. Rachel came over and we ordered pizza, and Emma kept reading the acceptance letter over and over like she couldn't believe it was real. Emma, I'm going to art school. I'm actually going to art school. Mom, I'm going to do it. The thing I was too scared to even dream about 6 months ago. I'm going to do it. Jennifer, you're going to do it, and you're going to be brilliant. You already are brilliant. Olivia, what about me? Does anyone care that I got a 98 on my history paper? She said it jokingly, but I heard the question underneath, the fear that Emma's success would overshadow her own achievements. That same fear I'd struggled with when the girls were young, trying to make sure they both felt equally seen and loved, despite being twins who were constantly compared to each other. Jennifer, show me the paper, right now. I want to read every word. And I did. I sat at the kitchen table and read Olivia's brilliant analysis of the civil rights movement, while Emma and Rachel looked at apartment listings in Chicago and dreamed about the future. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Balance. Like I was actually managing to be present for both my daughters in the ways they each needed. That night, after Rachel went home and the girls were in bed, I sat alone in the kitchen with a cup of tea and thought about the plumber. About Marcus, who'd been doing his job and had accidentally changed my entire life. I'd sent him a thank you card a few weeks after he fixed the toilet, telling him what his discovery had meant for my family. He'd called me to say he was glad things had worked out, that he had daughters too and knew how complicated it could be. I thought about how many times I'd walked past that corner of the basement, how many opportunities I'd had to discover Emma's studio on my own, how many signs I'd missed, the paint under her fingernails that I'd attributed to art class, the hours she spent at friends' houses that I now knew she'd spent in the basement, creating. The sadness in her eyes when we'd talked about college majors and I'd steered her toward practical fields. I thought about Olivia, too. About all the times she'd seemed like she wanted to tell me something, how she'd start sentences and then stop, how she'd watch me carefully when conversations turned to dating and relationships, gauging my reactions to things. How lonely it must have been to carry that truth by herself for 2 years. But mostly I thought about how close I'd come to losing them without ever realizing they were slipping away. How proximity isn't the same as connection. How living in the same house, eating at the same table, existing in the same space, doesn't mean you actually know each other. You have to work for that. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable, to ask hard questions, to hear answers you don't want to hear. You have to be willing to break, to let the flood come in, to call the plumber, to have your secrets discovered and your assumptions challenged and your carefully constructed walls torn down. Spring arrived slowly that year, the way it always does in the Midwest. Hesitant warmth followed by surprise snow. Daffodils pushing through frozen ground. Emma's paintings filled the dining room. Olivia's articles filled the school paper and local journals. And I started submitting my own writing to small magazines, terrified but determined. In April, I got my first acceptance. A personal essay about motherhood and divorce and the day a plumber found my daughter's secret art studio. It would be published in a parenting magazine. They'd pay me $300 for it. Not much, but it felt like everything. I told the girls over dinner. They screamed with excitement. Emma insisted we frame the acceptance email. Olivia immediately started planning a launch party for when the essay came out. Their enthusiasm made me feel brave, made me feel like maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be more than just the stressed-out single mom who worked too much and worried too much and forgot to live her own life. Emma, I'm proud of you, Mom. I know you don't hear that enough, but I am. You're doing the scary thing, just like you told me to do. Jennifer, we're all doing scary things. That's what this family does now, apparently. We do scary things together. Olivia, together is the important part. We forgot that for a while, but we're remembering now. In May, we had a graduation party for the twins. Nothing fancy, just family and close friends in the backyard. Daniel came, which surprised me. He was awkward with the girls, unsure of how to connect with them, now that they'd grown into complex young women with lives and dreams he knew nothing about. But he tried, and they were gracious. Kind in a way that suggested they'd already grieved the father they'd wanted and made peace with the father they had. He pulled me aside at one point, near the end of the party, when the sun was setting and people were starting to leave. Daniel, they're amazing, Jen. Our girls, they're really something special. Jennifer, they are. No thanks to either of us, really. They did this themselves. Daniel, don't sell yourself short. I know I wasn't around much these past few years. Hell, I wasn't around much before that either. But you were. You kept everything together. You gave them a home and stability, and apparently the space to become themselves. That's not nothing. Jennifer. It's also not enough. I almost lost them, Daniel. I almost let them slip away because I was so focused on keeping things stable that I forgot to actually see them, to know them. It took a broken toilet and a stranger to show me what I was missing. Daniel. But you found your way back. That's what matters. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. For not being here. For not helping more. For starting over with someone else and leaving you to handle everything alone. I thought I wanted something different, but mostly, I think I was just scared. Of getting older. Of not mattering anymore. Stupid midlife crisis stuff that hurt everyone around me. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever gotten from him. I wanted to be angry. Part of me was angry. But mostly I was just tired of carrying that anger around. Jennifer. We all did the best we could with what we knew at the time, and we made two incredible humans in the process. Let's call it even and focus on them, okay? Daniel. Okay. And Jen? Good luck with the writing thing. Emma showed me your essay. It's good. Really good. You should keep doing it. After he left, I found Emma and Olivia sitting on the back porch steps, watching the fireflies start their nightly dance. I sat down between them, one daughter on each side, the way I used to when they were small and had nightmares. Olivia. That wasn't too bad. The party, I mean. Dad being here and everything. Emma. Yeah, it was almost normal. Or our version of normal anyway. Jennifer. Normal is overrated. I like our version better. Messy and complicated and real. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the darkness deepen, listening to the crickets tune up for their evening concert. Emma. Mom, I'm scared. About leaving. About going to Chicago and being on my own, and what if I'm not actually good enough? What if everyone there is better than me and I realize I've made a huge mistake? Jennifer. Then you'll figure it out. You'll work harder, or you'll adjust your expectations, or you'll discover that you're better than you think you are. But probably that last one. Because you're extraordinary, Emma. And the only mistake would be not trying at all. Olivia. I'm scared too. About next year. About staying here while Emma's gone. About our whole dynamic changing. We've been together our entire lives, literally. We shared a womb. How do I even function without her? Emma. You're going to be fine. Better than fine. You're going to run that newspaper and write amazing things and probably win a Pulitzer before you're 30. Olivia. You don't know that. Emma. I know you. That's the same thing. Jennifer. Change is scary. For all of us. I'm terrified of this house feeling empty when you both leave for college, of having too much time to think and not enough chaos to distract me. But I'm also excited. For you, for me, for whatever comes next. Because we're not the same people we were 6 months ago. We're better, braver, more honest. Emma. Because of a broken toilet. We all laughed. The absurdity of it never got old. That something as mundane as plumbing failure had cracked open our lives and let the light in. Jennifer. Because we were ready to break. The toilet just gave us permission. We were all keeping secrets, building walls, pretending to be okay when we weren't. Something had to give. I'm glad it was the toilet and not us. Olivia. Are we going to be okay? Really okay? Or is this just temporary? A good patch before things get hard again? Jennifer. I think we're going to be okay. Not perfect. We'll mess up and hurt each other and disappoint each other sometimes. That's what people do. But we know how to fix it now. We know how to talk to each other. How to be real with each other. That's something we didn't have before. The mosquitoes started biting, driving us inside. We cleaned up from the party together, washing dishes and putting away chairs and throwing out paper plates. Regular mom stuff. Regular daughter stuff. But it felt different now. Like we were a team instead of just people who happened to live together. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went down to the basement, to Emma's old studio that she'd mostly cleared out. A few paintings still leaned against the walls. Studies and experiments she'd decided not to include in her final portfolio. I picked up the portrait she'd done of me, the one I'd discovered that first day. I looked at it for a long time, trying to see what my daughter saw when she looked at me. Trying to believe that I was this strong, capable person she'd captured on canvas. Trying to reconcile the tired, worried woman I felt like with the determined, resilient woman she'd painted. Maybe the truth was somewhere in between. Maybe I was both, tired and strong, worried and brave, struggling and succeeding, not despite my flaws and fears, but with them, through them, because of them. I heard footsteps on the basement stairs. Emma appeared, wearing pajamas covered in tiny paintbrushes. Emma. Couldn't sleep either? Jennifer. Too much cake, too many feelings, too much change happening too fast. Emma. Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone? Not even Olivia? Jennifer. Always. Emma. I'm terrified that I'm going to get to Chicago and realize I don't actually love art, that I just loved having this secret thing, this private world that was mine alone. What if it's not the same when it's not a secret anymore? What if I lose my passion when it becomes my job? I sat down on an old box, and Emma sat next to me. We were quiet for a moment, both of us looking at the empty space where her studio used to be. Jennifer. I think that's a risk any time we make our dreams real, when we pull them out of our heads and our hearts and into the world. But the alternative is to keep them locked away forever, to always wonder what if, and I think that's worse. I think that kind of regret is worse than any fear. Emma. When did you get so wise? Jennifer. I'm not wise. I'm just old enough to have made a lot of mistakes and learned from most of them. Well, some of them. Okay, a few of them. She laughed and leaned her head on my shoulder. My baby, my artist, my brave, talented, terrified daughter who was about to fly away and leave me behind. Emma, I'm going to miss you. So much. More than I can even explain. Jennifer, I'm going to miss you too. But I'm also going to visit. A lot. Embarrassingly often, probably. I'll be that mom who shows up uninvited and tries to feed you and inspect your apartment for safety hazards. Emma, I'm counting on it. And Mom, thank you. For letting me do this. For not making it weird or hard. For just supporting me even when I know you're scared about the money and the practicality and all of it. Jennifer, thank you for sharing this with me. For letting me back in. For giving me another chance after I almost blew it. We sat there in the empty basement for a long time. Both of us holding on to the moment because we knew it wouldn't last. Change was coming. Huge, terrifying, exciting change. But we'd face it together. Even when we were apart, we'd face it together. June brought graduation. High school ended in a blur of ceremonies and parties and tearful goodbyes. Emma and Olivia walked across the stage together, received their diplomas together, threw their caps in the air together. I cheered so loudly that other parents looked at me, but I didn't care. These were my girls. My brilliant, brave girls. And I was so damn proud of them I thought I might explode. July was for packing. For sorting through 16 years of accumulated stuff and deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to throw away. Emma packed art supplies and clothes, and the bare minimum of everything else. Olivia helped, even though she was staying home for another year, even though watching her sister pack must have been painful. Olivia, promise you'll call me every day, even when you're busy. Even when you make new friends and get swept up in college life, promise you won't forget about me. Emma, I could never forget about you. You're literally half of me. We shared organs, Liv. You think I'm going to forget that? I'll call you so much you'll get sick of me. I'll send you so many texts you'll have to block me. Olivia, I'll hold you to that. In August, we drove to Chicago. All of Emma's worldly possessions crammed into my aging SUV. The three of us sang along to old songs and stopped at weird roadside attractions and pretended we weren't all on the verge of tears the entire time. Her dorm room was tiny, a shoebox with a window. But Emma's eyes lit up when she saw it. She immediately started planning where her easel would go, where she'd hang paintings, how she'd arrange the space to maximize light. Her roommate hadn't arrived yet, so we had the place to ourselves to unpack and organize and delay the inevitable goodbye. When everything was unpacked and arranged, when there was nothing left to do, we stood in the middle of that tiny room and looked at each other. Jennifer, I guess this is it. Emma, don't say it like that. Like it's an ending. It's not an ending. It's just different. Olivia, it's definitely different. We hugged. The three of us tangled together one more time. And I let myself cry because holding it in would have been a lie. Emma cried too. Olivia cried the hardest, her whole body shaking with sobs she'd been holding back for weeks. Olivia, I can't do this. I can't leave you here alone. What if you need me? What if something happens and I'm not here? Emma, then I'll call you, and you'll help me figure it out. Same as always. Just on the phone instead of in person. We're twins, Liv. A couple 100 miles doesn't change that. Nothing changes that. Eventually, we had to leave. We had a long drive home, and Emma had orientation in the morning, so we said goodbye. I kissed my daughter's forehead and told her I loved her, and made her promise to call if she needed anything. Anything at all. No matter how small or silly or late at night. The drive home was quiet. Olivia sat in the passenger seat and stared out the window, watching Chicago disappear behind us. I wanted to say something comforting, something wise, but I had nothing. We were both grieving, both adjusting to this new reality where our family unit had been reduced by 1/3. Olivia, the house is going to be so quiet. Jennifer, yeah, it is. Olivia, just us now. Jennifer, just us. But that wasn't a bad thing, I realized. It was different. But different didn't have to be bad. Olivia and I would figure out our own rhythm, our own relationship separate from Emma. We'd have dinners together and watch movies and talk about her writing and my writing and whatever else we needed to talk about. We'd become our own unit while still being part of the bigger family. True to her word, Emma called every day, sometimes multiple times a day. She told us about her classes, her professors, her new friends. She sent pictures of her work and asked for feedback. She FaceTimed us from museums and galleries, giving us virtual tours. She complained about her roommate who left dirty dishes everywhere and raved about a girl in her painting class who might become a good friend. Olivia went back to school for senior year. She threw herself into the newspaper, writing article after article. Without Emma there to lean on, she seemed to expand, to take up more space, to become even more herself. She joined new clubs, made new friends, started dating a girl named Michelle who was smart and funny and treated her like she hung the moon. I kept writing. My essay about the plumber and the basement studio was published in September. People responded to it. They shared it. They sent me messages about their own kids, their own discoveries, their own struggles with connection. A literary agent reached out, asking if I'd ever considered writing a memoir. I said I'd think about it, which was really another way of saying I was terrified but intrigued. Life settled into a new normal. Not the old normal. Not the fearful, disconnected normal where we all tiptoed around each other, but a better normal, a more honest normal. We video chatted as a family every Sunday evening. We texted constantly. We planned visits and holidays and made sure the distance didn't become permanent. In October, I went to Chicago to visit Emma. Just me, without Olivia, because Olivia had homecoming and didn't want to miss it. It was strange being alone with just one daughter. We'd always been a unit of 3 or 4, but it was also wonderful. We had breakfast at a tiny cafe near her campus. We went to art museums. We talked about her classes and her doubts and her victories. Emma, I love it here, Mom. I was so scared I wouldn't. So scared I'd get here and realize I'd made a mistake. But I didn't. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Thank you for making it possible. Jennifer, you made it possible. I just got out of your way. Finally. Emma, can I show you something? It's a new piece I'm working on. I've been kind of secretive about it because I wasn't sure how you'd react. She took me back to her dorm, to the tiny space she'd made her own. And there, on an easel by the window, was a painting in progress. It was us, all 3 of us. Me and Emma and Olivia, sitting on our back porch steps, lit by fireflies and summer darkness. The painting captured something I didn't know could be captured. The weight of love, the reality of connection, the specific way we fit together. Jennifer, Emma, this is extraordinary. Emma, it's for us, for our home. I want to finish it before Thanksgiving and give it to you. So we can hang it in the living room and remember this summer. The summer everything changed. Jennifer, the summer everything got better. Emma, yeah, that. When I got home, Olivia was waiting up for me even though it was late. She'd made tea and had her laptop open, working on an article. Olivia, how is she? Really? Jennifer, she's happy. Really, genuinely happy. Flourishing even. You should go visit her soon. She misses you. Olivia, I will, after midterms. I've been thinking about applying to Northwestern. It's only like 30 minutes from Emma's school. We could be in the same city again. Jennifer, is that what you want? Or are you just scared of being too far from her? Olivia, both. I want to go to a good journalism school. Northwestern has one of the best programs. But I also miss my sister. Is that pathetic? That I can't imagine being across the country from her? Jennifer, it's not pathetic. It's love. And love is allowed to factor into our decisions. Just make sure it's not the only factor. Make sure you're also choosing what's best for you. She nodded and went back to her article. I sat next to her, opened my own laptop, and worked on my own writing. Mother and daughter side by side, both of us creating something from nothing. Both of us figuring out who we were when we weren't defined by the people we'd lost or left behind. Thanksgiving came. Emma came home with bags full of dirty laundry and the finished painting. We hung it in the living room right away, the three of us standing back to admire it. Emma had captured us perfectly. Not as we wished we were, but as we actually were. Tired and imperfect and completely, utterly real. Daniel came for Thanksgiving dinner. It was awkward at first, having him in the house again, but the girls needed him there. Needed to feel like they still had two parents who cared, even if those parents were no longer together. And I needed to show them that I could be gracious, that I could make space for their relationship with their father, without it threatening my relationship with them. We ate too much turkey and watched football and told stories about past Thanksgivings. And it was okay. Not perfect, but okay, which was all any of us really needed. After Daniel left, after the girls went to bed, I sat in the living room looking at Emma's painting, thinking about the journey that had brought us here, about the broken toilet and the hidden studio, about the secrets we'd kept and the truths we'd finally shared, about how close I'd come to missing all of this, to letting my daughters drift away because I was too proud or too stubborn or too scared to really see them. Marcus the plumber had given me an unexpected gift that September morning. Not just a fixed toilet, though that was nice too, but the gift of disruption, of having the curtain pulled back, of being forced to see what I'd been deliberately not seeing. Sometimes the things we avoid looking at are the things we most need to see. Sometimes the secrets we keep are the very things that keep us trapped. And sometimes it takes a stranger finding what we've hidden for us to realize we were hiding it from ourselves too. Emma and Olivia were my greatest achievements, but they were also their own people, separate from me, with their own dreams and fears and secrets and strengths. My job wasn't to know everything about them or control their paths or protect them from every possible disappointment. My job was to love them enough to let them be themselves, to create a space where they felt safe being honest, to model the kind of courage I wanted them to have. And I was learning. God, was I learning. Every day, every conversation, every mistake and course correction. I was learning how to be the mother they needed me to be, which turned out to be very different from the mother I'd thought I should be. The house was quiet now with just Olivia and me, but it wasn't empty. It was full of possibility, full of the people we were becoming, full of the love we'd fought to keep and strengthen and rebuild. I thought about my own writing, about the memoir the agent wanted me to consider, about whether I had the courage to share my story the way Emma had the courage to share her art, and Olivia had the courage to share her truth, about whether I was ready to stop hiding behind the role of mom and remember I was also just Jennifer, flawed and trying and figuring it out as I went along. Maybe I was ready, maybe I wasn't, but I was going to try. Because that's what we did now in this family. We tried. We scared ourselves. We jumped without nets. We trusted that if we fell, we'd catch each other. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Olivia coming down for water or unable to sleep or just needing company. She sat next to me on the couch, and we both looked at the painting together. Olivia: "It's really good, isn't it?" Emma's painting. Jennifer: "It's perfect." Olivia: "We look happy. In the painting, we look like a real family." Jennifer: "We are a real family. Maybe not a typical one, but real. And that's better." Olivia: "I'm glad the toilet broke, Mom. Is that a weird thing to say?" Jennifer: "No, honey. It's not weird at all. I'm glad too." We sat there together in the quiet house, looking at the painting that captured us in our most authentic moment. Mother and daughters, separate and together, broken and whole, scared and brave, everything at once. And I realized something I should have known all along. We'd never been perfect. We'd never be perfect. But we were ours. This messy, complicated, beautiful family was ours. And that was more than enough. It was everything.